So I'm not exactly sure what time that happened, and
There were no buses over there, I guarantee you.
right.
There were no buses
So that's
over there.
that's industrial, and SH Bell, what do they handle? Bulk materials, right? Scrap materials, waste materials, what I call them, but yeah, it's a commodity, I guess. But we start to see that it is unhealthy, right? We start to see that it being across the street, and the only thing separating that community, keeping it safe, is a chain link fence. Great filter, great. So let's see, scroll a little bit down more and see if we can get all of the data points. Still feel like I'm gonna do that. Okay, so yeah, even on the minimum of the average minimums, you even see yellow hitting here, right? So what does that tell you? That tells you that there is a problem with the way the industry is doing that, their practices in our community, that there are concerns that our community should be concerned about, right? Any questions? Anybody would like to ask any more questions?
I would like to ask a
Sure.
question. Just out of my mind, I don't know, I'm just thinking that these different industries, they have people who probably have worked in their facilities over the years who probably, I see a lot of lawsuits of different types of, people with certain diseases and certain exposures to different things. And it seems to me, I started thinking, I said, now, I wonder if these companies or these industries have their own process of evaluating exactly what it is that people who are working there are exposed to, chemicals and processes and things. It's a lot of information available in 2019 scientifically, and even though the government may not be paying proper attention to this,
Right.
I'm thinking that because of a lot of legal claims and different things that are going on, that some of these industries have some sort of information that may not be available to the public, that they're monitoring.
Well, that raises a real good question. I mean, is there a way like that is a system of lawsuits? See, the problem is when you come into lawsuits, that's a civic matter, right? So when that lawsuit is handled, most corporations make you sign a non-disclosure list, agreement.
Yeah.
So that way, at any time, if I speak of anything, they can sue me for exactly what the amount, and then after that, they can also sue me for the legal costs that they lost and from the first lawsuit. So,
Sam, are these, to what Marie was saying, are these, is SH Bell, are they unionized people in there?
as far as I know, no.
That's the reason.
No, and exactly.
That's a great,
right.
that's a point to bring up, because these poor souls, they're in it for the money, and SH Bell doesn't give a rat's, what,
No,
about
exactly.
their health.
Exactly.
If they were unionized, and I'm not, advocating, they can do whatever they want, but a union is gonna come in and they're gonna monitor these people's health.
no, I
And probably SH Bell wants nothing to do with that, because they're a dirty industry.
The other thing is, Sam, where was this monitor again?
this was 102nd and Avenue N.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's a clothing shop.
Yeah, it used to be right there. Gold Shell was on that same block corner.
Wouldn't there be federal workplace regulations also that would be universal since it's federal?
OSHA actually handles the national health and safety occupation of all industries. And like you said, the one thing is OSHA is an agency like any other agency. You have to be notified in order for violations to happen, right? Problem we see a lot of with these industries is we don't see actual workers that work with the company. Most times we see either a temping agency, right? So the problem we have is when employees take jobs at these industrial areas, they should be exposed to an MSDS, your Materials Safety Data Sheet, right? And it tells you all the chemicals, all the lubricants, everything that is of chemical makeup. It has to be actually put into the MSDS. It's a federal law. Now, one thing is do companies do everything according to law the way they're supposed to? We hope, right? We hope, because according to the United States, they're an actual person, right? Nobody can go to jail for violations of the law, but hey, there's plenty of protections for them.
Sam, during the peak time there, is that, what was coming out of the place? Was it,
We don't know.
oh, you don't know? It just
So,
showed
so
that-
all this shows is, all this does is it has, the monitor actually has two little laser beam counters, and what it does is it counts how fast the laser is reflected and how fast it's actually deflected. And
And
that
how
way
do you
can-
know this is SH Bell?
By the placement of where it's at.
But we don't know for sure.
We don't know for sure,
Okay.
so,
We just know that it's.
but
very-
that's the biggest industrial pollutant, contaminant, and that is actually the biggest area of employment within that 2-block radius of that area. So,
And remember, there's days wind doesn't blow in the same direction the monitor was. Remember, we had one monitor.
exactly.
We didn't have enough monitors to place, like, okay, if the wind's coming from the south, if the wind's coming from the west. We didn't have that kind of setup because we only had one monitor to put there. So again, those days that it was yellow, who knows?
Right.
Maybe they would have been orange if we had the monitor in a different location.
And another thing we have to
You
take
know,
account
those are the
is,
difficult things that we had to deal with
Right.
because we had limited equipment.
and then also because certain areas have certain factors of the way their environment is, that it causes air pressure to pick up, lower, different curves, especially along the river, right? Because there's a missing area that the air actually goes, and when it hits a curve, there's a plume of air that comes off the river. So if there's anything on that riverfront when that angle of air hits, it puts everything that's all in the air further out into the air. So that's one thing, and you know, we would love to be able to sit there and say exactly what it is, but these are low-cost equipment, right? So all it's gonna tell us is the levels of particulate matter that's in the air and how much is exposed out within time frames. So maybe if we got the $3,000 equipment that can actually show different levels of, you know, particulate matter from 10 to 2.5, but considering that we have to spread the equipment between 4 organizations, we weren't gonna be able to get one $3,000 $1,000 equipment test, and then everything else would be $100. And it'd just be, wouldn't work that way, yes.
Who has the $3,000 equipment, the government?
Yes, actually they do. They, the EPA uses a $3,000 MET 1, and that's the one that I told you that actually, you don't do anything other than, once you place it in, you make sure you get your GPS and the serial number, that way you can track down your information once it goes back into the cloud. So that's one of the best ones they got. That's actually what they have on top of Washington High School to monitor our air around here.
Okay, and about OSHA, here's an interesting thing that we learned. When they were removing the pile of flue ash off of the Beamsterboard property, which they had to put into a hazardous waste site, and we saw the workers with the bulldozers without any respirators or anything, we called OSHA. And you know what they told us? An employee needs to report us. Or an employee needs to report it. I could not report
Yeah.
for an employee.
Oh,
An
no.
employee had to make the complaint. Remember that, Jim? You were in the office with us. So, you know, OSHA is only so good as it is, and so I'm just saying, you learn as you go along, yeah.
Yeah.
We thought we were doing something
Yeah,
by
yeah,
right.
alerting, and it was like, no, an employee has to call us.
They're standing on this mountain of
Yeah,
ash
yeah, exactly.
with very little, if any, protection.
You know what they had? They had a reflective vest. They didn't even have a hard hat. That was the bad part. I was like, dude, don't even have a hard hat. You don't have a little, no paper, not even a handkerchief.
Well, who
Sounds
knows
like
if they were
Chernobyl.
told what they were standing
No.
on?
No, they weren't. And that was the one thing.
And we could not go on the property because it's private property, so we can't go over there and say, hey, well, plus I wouldn't go over there without a respirator.
Right. And I'm over here trying to yell at the guy like, hey, y'all can't be over there, right?
It's only dirt.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
So
That's what.
please, so let's go, let's move on.
Okay, yeah, I'm
We're
sorry.
out of time, we're running out of time
Yeah.
now.
It would be good to know, and I don't know if your equipment does it, but how long, like, what period of time they were actually in the red, or, you know?
Well, you know what? Like I said, that we can get to once we go into the data and then go frame by frame, and then that way we can actually
Yeah,
start
so
to
I see
pull
what
out
you're
the
saying, how
information.
long were we in the red?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
So that way we can sit there and say, well, this peak lasted for 25 minutes long, right? And then after that, it dropped to a lower level. But no, I agree. But like I said, because we're doing it in a frame that's easy to digest so everybody can see it, rather than if we actually went to hour by hour, one of these, we would not be able to scroll through just
Yeah.
that, because then it's going to break it down hour by hour. So 24 hours each times a day, that's going to be a long. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, Rita.
Sorry, I have a question.
Mhm.
So, if you get the new monitors, I mean, would Kansas State University or whatever, would they continue to help us?
No,
Or we
no,
can-
this is how it's done. They had a
Alright.
grant.
Okay.
And once that grant is over and they
Oh,
don't
their
get paid,
grant was
they're,
over,
they're gone.
okay, all right, okay.
right.
So right now,
yeah.
that's a study part is
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm trying to research like apps and different programs that maybe we can have that data put into a cloud and then it streams it into it. But like I said, in order for us to do that, you have to be either a computer programmer.
yeah, can we scroll?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's a long process.
But one of the things they did say, because this again is a pilot program, but
Yeah,
it was also
yeah,
a
that's-
testing program project to see if people in other places could do this. And what they did say was, the recommendation was that if you come as a community, you wanna do this with this type of equipment, get a partner, an expert partner, like you find a university to partner with, because they realize that this is difficult for the average
Oh,
citizen
yeah.
to look at all this data
Okay.
and try to, get information from it. So now we're moving to the mobile data. So this is where people were walking around with their little reflective vests on
Yeah.
and trying to collect information on the handheld device.
Give me 1 second. All right, so we're gonna pick one of these days that Anna did okay. I'm just playing, Anna. You did awesome. Don't listen to anything I say to you.
You just told her she was awesome, now you did.
Oh, that hurt.
Joey.
That hurt. Thank you. Thank you. So this right here is actually the route that Anna was talking about, where we started off at the library, walked over to 106th and Ewing intersection, and then they walked all the way up to 103rd, where Callisto Elementary School is. So this is one route that they did. It seems fairly well when you look at it. It's not that bad. Go ahead and scroll further down, so we can see what the actual numbers look like. So that's the heat map of what it is. This is what we actually get to see what they were walking through. Okay, and here goes our highs and our lows again, and our minimums. Okay, so one of the issues that we were trying to figure out is why is what's going on? Why were we going to pick that area? Was because Callisto has a bus route that goes right through it. Right? 106 has a transportation route that leads from Indiana to the expressway. So that's why we wanted to try to get that corridor along that area. So we did very well. Would you like to say anything
You
about
wanna
it?
go down so they can see how
Yeah,
it
let's
compares
go
to
down,
other
scroll down.
neighborhoods?
I'm sorry, yeah, this is how we compare to all the other neighborhoods. Okay, so this is Little Village, this is Northbrook. So this is the EPA regional testing site. So they actually have an area where they have monitors already testing the air quality. This is PCR, this is over in Elko Gardens. This is us, yay. Not really because we're not in green, but, and then we've got the South Loop.
So remember now, this is all on the same day. So this is how we compare the air quality on the same day to those other sites. And what we did find too in general is that when Northbrook was green, we were almost always yellow. So even though the air quality in Northbrook, according to their monitors, is saying the air quality is good, ours was never good at the same time.
And also remember that we had one of those the Met ones near Washington High School, where it showed you that small little green dot, right? Where everybody else was yellow all around the houses, right? And that one was green. So that just goes to show you how different the air quality is from certain areas when you're walking near the industrial corridor as opposed to Washington High School off the side of everything. Okay, let me see. And we're gonna go check out another route, which was the Torrance corridor. So give me 1 second.
Now, we have charts for every day that they monitor it like this, but you guys would be falling asleep if we went through every single day. And
Exactly.
every single, we're just trying to pick out, just a day here and there so you can kind of see what goes on.
I will go with.
What was, I
Yes.
didn't understand, why did the yellow go up so high? What was that measurement?
That's just telling you, the quality of the air was
Yeah.
more often yellow than, that was the high in terms of maximum.
25, 14.
It's like Sam said that's a bus route, also a truck route. So there was a lot of diesel going down that route.
All right. So this is right here is, like I said, we were. Oh, I'm sorry. The same.
No,
This
that's,
bush, isn't it?
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, by the way, if you do want to breathe some clean air within the 10th ward, go to the US Steel site.
Yes, that's all
Well,
green. You see that, right?
There's very little traffic, it's
Yeah.
wide open, you have the water, the lake does help, believe it or not, the lake does help us, even
Yes.
us, it helps, okay?
Well, what we got to remember is what the water does. It's actually a sponge for carbon dioxide and a lot of pollutants. So it absorbs it and kind of contains it within itself.
So that green bar at the top there, that's.
That's bush.
That's the bush by US Steel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry
Well,
about
we wanted that baseline information, so then in the future, if they did develop it, we'd see how it changes,
Yes.
if it changes at all.
Well, what do you plan on doing with this information?
Well, we're just, first of all, explaining it to you guys. That was gonna help us as we continue to air monitoring. How do we improve what we were doing? Right, because we can't, this would not hold up in the court of law, by the way, because
Yeah, it won't.
citizens are doing it.
Yeah.
But it gives us an idea of what our issues might be, where they might be, and then we decide what do we do.
Well, this is also good because if we did get somebody to help in that, this would be
Right,
like your
yeah.
baseline
Exactly.
of what happened.
No,
and then-
that's not it.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's 5. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I memorized these at one point, but now they're all just numbers to me. Which is good because I remember more of my kids' names. All right, here we go. So this is, right here, is the Torrance 103rd corridor, right? So this, one of the reasons why we want to pick this area is because it's technically the end of where Southeast Environmental Task Force has been kind of engaged in. So we wanted to kind of work on the outside of our boundaries, and also because truck traffic coming into our community, one of the main areas of activity is through here. So we have 103rd and 130th are the two corridors that have the expressway traffic coming to us. So what you see is as they got further away from the corridor and they were across the street towards Heine's, which is awesome. Gotta put a shout out to Heine's. Hot sauce is awesome. But what you start to see is as they get closer to the corridor, you start to get darker into yellow and things like that, right? And then as they were coming out of the corridor, they were still coming this way, but you still have trucks and buses making that route around. So you're still
So
gonna have elevators.
here's what we think is the reason for the change. Because as you can see, it goes kind of like from green to yellow, right? We think the reason for that is that even though there are trucks on Torrance, on 103rd they all converge, right? They're constantly feeding in, so you're getting more trucks down 103rd than you are on Torrance at any given time, because they all kind of travel down 103rd, so they converge together. Now, there might be another explanation, but again, we only can see the data. We're
Right.
trying to
Yeah.
guess why is this happening, And again, we think because the number increases on 103rd, because they all come together as they're feeding into the expressway.
Right, and then also we have to remember that once you get in here, because you have the traffic going back and forth, that air isn't really settling, it's just going up and down that corridor, circling around, right? And until it hopefully eventually dissipates.
So now here's what we're thinking about this too. So now this is based on current truck numbers. Those numbers are expected to increase dramatically. Once we get all those warehouses built, and once we get, you know, the other industries that are coming in, like General Iron, which already handles 600 trucks a day where they're located now up north. So when you start seeing those numbers increase, that yellow might actually go to orange. Because now you're gonna have that many more trucks coming in there, through there all day long.
Are you talking about the warehouses on Avenue O?
Yes.
Yes.
So that means that will increase the load?
Oh,
on
definitely.
Avenue?
Yes,
Definitely.
and then we also gotta remember that the reason why it stopped at a certain point is because they didn't go further into the intersection in the corridor. Because once you get further down, you've got a train yard right there, right? Train has a lot of
We're
diesel
talking about the
emissions.
monitoring.
Right,
The
no, no,
monitor's the
exactly.
only one so far down the corridor.
So,
Right.
and for their safety, I didn't want them to walk 3 miles there and 3 miles
Right,
back, because they did that, you know, in school when we were younger, you know, with snowbanks 6 miles high, right? But here goes the graphing of how their exposure was, and then there goes the numbers there goes the peak high, the average, and then the minimum. So our minimum was green, awesome, but then the average was, you see where it's at?
When you combine the orange and the yellow and the numbers, and however they do it, yes.
So, okay, and there goes our air quality versus everybody else. We're always runner-up, never a winner, but I'm glad we're never winning this one though. That's one race I don't want to win at. So, the one thing is like, I wanted everybody to understand, and I hope I wasn't too hard on these guys, is, you know, the technology is shoddy at best because it's the first run of everything, right? So as we're starting to get further in, and I think, you know, we are seeing a lot more in adaptations to technology, especially with climate change being a lot more prevalent in industry talk, and also within academics, right? So since a lot of academics are the ones that push the research, we're starting to see a lot more, you know, mergers of projects and things like that. And I would love to see more, but I think I'm gonna stop talking you to death and start asking you if you would like any questions or any concerns.
Would you show them a winter value?
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry,
This
yes.
is all summer now. All
I'm
of
so
this
sorry,
that
yeah.
you've been seeing is
That was
summer
summer, yeah.
We have a winter session.
So let's
That's why I
go-
said we can't show you every day, because you guys would definitely just fall asleep on us. But show them a winter value of probably, what's a good one?
Let me go back to Callisto. That way they can see what the winter
Does
and.
it change it? Does it? I know there were some that were changed.
Or do you wanna check out another one?
You decide.
Okay.
So overall, were you guys pleased with the way the operation ran? I mean,
No, because we made a lot of mistakes. I think our time.
well, I mean,
time
that's a
of
good
day,
thing though, too.
The
though.
fact that we couldn't get as close to industry as we wanted to.
Okay.
The other thing was, remember in the beginning how they had turned the monitors on right when they were in the office? So we were registering the air in the office.
Yeah,
Because
and your cars.
They didn't think about the fact that once you turn it on, it's turned on. So
Yeah.
they were turning it on and they were turning it on.
Okay, so
Yes, right, right. So
This-
those values skewed the actual values because they were monitoring some of the air in our office.
Right,
when
but
we-
you've learned all that, how to do it.
no, exactly that, exactly.
That's-
So I'm actually happy with a lot of those hiccups because as we got further along, we started to understand where we don't make them mistakes again, right? And okay, well, here goes the 106 to Callisto corridor in the wintertime. Okay, this is
Looks
March.
the same.
March.
Well, it looks somewhat the same, but we're gonna scroll down and see what the numbers tell us.
Well,
It's worse, right?
Well, their peaks were worse.
Yes, the
Yeah,
peaks were worse.
The peaks were worse.
So, oh, what? That's Yeah, so the peaks are worse, and I would love to be able to kind of stretch it out a lot more so you can get more finer detailing into the color coding where we would actually, because if you scroll back up.
You're not moving fast enough, girl. You know.
All right. So we have, where you see where we have yellow here, and then this elevated red here, right? So that's near the school. So is that
because of
Is that because of bus drop,
Yes.
bus drop off?
It's
Because they pick up
It's all the cars
And
dropping
the
kids
cars were-
off.
cars dropping off, and then also there's a bus that picks up Carver School kids at Gallisto High School. I mean, at Gallisto Elementary.
Yeah.
Because my son used to always go there, and I used to see him a couple times get picked up. But that's one of the issues that we have at that. And let's scroll back down to the color codes. All right, and if you noticed it, it's only peaked up at a certain time when they were at Gallisto, right?
Can you scroll up a little bit more too? I want to see something. I want to see the wind.
What?
The wind speed.
Oh. No,
The other way.
there we go. Stop. All right.
Look
So-
up, there's no wind.
There's no wind. There's no pressure.
wind. Okay, I want everyone to realize that. That's another reason it's green. There's no wind, so nothing is blowing that isn't already there. And that's probably why you're seeing the red right there where the buses were, because that's not being dispersed. But at the same time, nothing else is blowing into that corridor that normally blows in.
Well, could you clarify, the reason that there's a peak at 10:10 is or between 10:10 and 10:20 is because of people picking up, wait, what is the reason for that?
Most likely, was it a school bus? Most likely it could have been a trip at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, there was.
It's a morning pickup, a morning.
Okay.
We don't know.
So, yeah, we don't know,
That's
but
probably-
we'd have to actually go to the
It's
school and
probably
find
that a
out.
school bus was sitting
Yeah,
there
that's,
blowing out diesel.
exactly.
Okay.
And you know, school buses aren't exactly the
Can't turn
Yeah.
those off.
best
Yeah.
regulated standards, but, yeah.
See why they couldn't.
They
Um,
can't.
I don't
They
know,
don't
like
like
the
to.
ambulance.
Well,
law, they have to
technically, no
turn them
diesel
off.
engine, no diesel truck or bus, unless it's a CTA, is allowed to idle for more than 3 minutes. They actually can get a fine for that from the city of Chicago. But you have to actually
And it's a
report
winter.
it, time it, and all that. I mean,
Fine.
The winter.
if in the wintertime, I tell them, line up on the bridge and you write tickets and we got, you know, half a school year paid for right there. But,
So the other thing too is if you go back up, Anna, you can also see that, oh no, I'm sorry, go back down. I'm sorry, go down.
so you got so she knows.
It's all green.
Yeah, what's
That
that?
means in general and throughout the city, air quality that particular day, winter time, there's probably not very much ozone, you see, so it tends to be green.
Yeah.
And it was
So
actually
even-
true for us
so
too for a
even
change,
we're
right?
green.
This was in March.
Yes.
Yes.
What happened in Northbrook?
Oh, so then.
It's a lot.
No, they,
No.
all of a sudden they weren't doing Northbrook. Why?
No, at the time we figured, because we weren't using one of the other equipments that we weren't gonna have to monitor, running the monitor at Northbrook for the winter session. Because we eliminated one part of the equipment that we were monitoring prior to that before. Because they discontinued, one of the monitors we actually, used to have. Because in the first session, we had actually 2 monitors strapped onto, to the community members. And then after that, they discontinued one, so since they're not gonna make it anymore, why are we gonna test it? I mean, we can test it, but how long is the application good for, right? So that's why we kind of didn't use it anymore for our mobile monitoring anymore. But it was still used to calibrate against the home stationary monitoring. So the purple layers and and the air qual, I think it's called.
It was air quality.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, but there's air qual index, there's a lot of terminology you kind of get lost and shuffled in between.
So this particular bar graph, does this reflect just one day or the whole winter?
One day.
This is that
So
one
at
day.
least on that day.
Yeah, so
the-
each
the
one of these
air is
graphs
better.
on the mobile is for that reflective of that time of day, for that day. And then when you go to the home monitoring, because that's a 24-hour constant cycling, there's more data, so it's not gonna be,
But are you able to extrapolate anything like whether air is better in March than it is in July, or
Yeah,
not? You
yeah,
can't
if we
do
were
that.
to look at other days,
Right.
we would see that
But-
would not be green.
Right,
Okay, so in other words, this is
In
just.
general?
yes, and I would say just.
But yeah, in general, are you able to?
But in general, that pertains to us, because that may not be true for the South Loop.
Right.
Because they don't have a lot of dust blowing around like we do.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so,
okay.
yeah, and that's why I said there's so many days we
Oh,
look at,
yeah,
it's hard
right.
for us to.
And then also, we didn't do month by month, each one of us, because we were sharing the equipment to keep the cost down. So we didn't, so that way we can, so what happened is each community had a month to monitor each one of their sites.
A
So
month.
Yeah,
out of
a
the
month.
year.
So that's why we picked a winter month, and then that's when we picked
A summer month.
And the idea was because in the summertime with the humidity, there's a denser feeling in the air. So, I mean, I'm not a scientist, but according to what I see, when we go through a lot of the warmer temperatures and the warmer readings of the monitoring, whether it's mobile or stationary, we start to see that it's a higher count. Now, this is just my suspicion, but when it gets hotter, you start to feel that there's more in the air, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because, right, maybe humidity starts to actually keep it in condensed more pressure. That maybe, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a scientist. I talked to a scientist once and he blew my mind, and I just left it alone after that. Okay, but yeah, but now that we've gotten through a lot of the hurdles and we've kind of believe we've gotten a ability to create an actual monitoring program for our community that we can, build on from this. I think it's, there's some great future in seeing where technology goes, and hopefully we get to be more guinea pigs and exposed to a lot more technology. Yes, you first. I'm sorry.
Okay, so with the mobile monitors,
Yes.
we had them for like 2 months of winter and the summer, and then,
Only 1 month. It was 32
No,
days.
she said 2 months total.
Oh no, yeah, 2 months total. Yes.
2
Yes.
months total.
Yeah.
And the other communities would have 2 months also, but they would be different months.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this one where they're all the same day, that's based on the ones that are stationary?
That's based on so each one of the communities that we have an actual a regional EPA monitoring site where they have a Met 1. So for us, our when we weren't running and they were trying to figure out our air quality, they went to the Met 1.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
when our air was running and we're monitoring, we went to their EPA regional site that was
And
closest
then I
to
just have
that.
another question. So
Yeah.
Kansas State, were they also working with other communities in the country?
No.
This was it, this was
So
it?
Kansas State actually they were part of the group that helped pick Chicago to be the pilot city.
Okay,
So after us in Kansas State, there's supposed to be, I think, another round of grants for